Welcome, everybody. I am Shay Mack, and I'm the Texas delegate with National Parents Union. And we are super excited you guys are here for session 3 of our Winter Advocacy Parent Boot Camp with National Parents Union. I wanted to start us off by introducing our presenter. Christina Lassiter is a proud mother of 4, excited grandmother of 3, a San Diego, California native who is intimately concerned about the well-being of children and families. She first started working in early childhood education while attending the University of San Diego for pre-law school. She developed a deeper concern about how systems impact disparate communities. Ending her work in the school district with special education, and upon graduating with a BA in political science, she decided to further her education, going on to earn a master's in business administration. Pursuing what is right and just for children, she has served as a civil rights activist in education. Her zealous pursuit is to ensure that children have access and opportunity to equity education and great experiences. Dedicated to that end, she currently serves as our NPU Director of Policy and Legislation. Thank you, Christina, for leading our boot camp tonight. And now we will hear from 2 of our delegates, Judith and Maritza.
Hi, everyone. This is Judith. So the National Parents Union. The National Parents Union develops a new narrative that is inclusive of families from a wide variety of perspectives and that unites parents of color, low-income parents, special needs parents, single mothers and fathers, grandparents, formerly incarcerated parents, and parents in recovery with traditional represented parent voices to join a vibrant coalition that disrupts the traditional role of parent voice in policy spaces that directly impact our children. And then our mission and vision. The mission of NPU is to support parents who have lived experience and authentic voices, advocates and organizers who engage, educate, and empower families, neighborhood by neighborhood across the United States. Parents trust and expect that education is the great equalizer, and school systems of every type must be held accountable for meeting the promise of education for all students, that each student has equitable access to opportunity to launch into a successful future.
And we believe our children should always be at the core of our vision. We believe there should be liberation, justice, and equity in education for all children. We believe education systems must be transformed to eradicate generational institutions of oppression. We believe families have a powerful voice to influence and political policies at national level. In order to affect change and strengthen families, we must provide them with the resources and opportunities to develop their talents and share best practices.
So make sure that you have the app Kahoot either on your phone as an app. We are going to play an interactive game twice to try and just make it a little bit more fun. And it lets Christina, our presenter, know if her message is getting conveyed and getting across to y'all. It can either be on your phone as an app, or you can do that as a split screen as a second tab on your computer. And now take it away, Christina.
Welcome, everyone. I am so glad and excited. We are on our 3rd session of Winter Boot Camp, Advocacy Developing Change Makers. And I'm just grateful that you're all here. Happy New Year for all of you as well. Here is the flow for our time together so that you will know what we're going to be covering and what to expect. So as you can see, we've already completed the welcome, the review, and now we're at the flow, and this is what's left. Also, the expected outcome is that you will understand realistic target goals pertaining to education in your area, understand strategies and tactics to accomplish these goals, and understand how to deliver on them. You will also have the opportunity to take everything you learned during this Winter Boot Camp 3-part session and execute a plan using NPU's toolkit. You can draft an op-ed. We'll be talking about that, or a persuasive speech to a target audience about the need for a high quality education. So let's begin. All right, here is our reflection. As you can see, I'm gonna read this, and I just want you to be thinking about it as we go along in this course tonight. The one who follows the crowd will usually go no further than the crowd. Those who walk alone are likely to find themselves in places no one has ever been before. Creativity in living is not without its attendant difficulties. For peculiarity breeds contempt. And I'm sure you guys have heard that sentence before. So it might sound familiar to some of you. If not, still ponder what this reflection is saying. And the unfortunate thing about being ahead of your time is that when people finally realize you were right, they'll say it was obvious all along. You have two choices in your life. You can dissolve into the mainstream, or you can be distinct. To be distinct, you must be different. To be different, you must strive to be what no one else but you can be. And that is attributed to Alan Ashley Pitt. All right, so let's go through a review. If you were here the first and second sessions, you will be familiar with this content. If you were not present, you can definitely check out our Facebook Live page, National Parents Union Facebook, and we will have those recorded sessions for you to view. And so let's start with the review of week 1, session 1. So we talked about James Madison, which in the US system, people consider him a founding father. Why? Because he wrote Federalist Paper 51 that established the US government branches and separation of power, also known as the system of checks and balances. That is attributed particularly to James Madison, who wrote the Federalist Paper that made it constitutionally a part of who we are, Constitution being the supreme law of the land. The United States is what we're talking about. Now, with regards to whether or not this Federalist Paper was securing the class of elite, there's been some critique on that. Definitely go look at that. I think that there's plenty of critique. I am not spending that time to critique whether or not he meant the people, or whether or not he meant the protection for the elite class. There are some experts in critiquing things like that who you're sure to find some readings on. So anyway, James Madison's paper 51, what I call his article, his op-ed, or his persuasive speech, if we're thinking in modern context, talking about what is government. And right here, you can see in the box, this is a famous quote that really establishes why we need these checks and balances, separation of powers, and that to be in the Constitution, established and embedded in our US government structure. And he says, but what is government itself but the greatest of all reflections on human nature? If men were angels, no government would be necessary. If angels were to govern men, neither external nor internal controls on government would be necessary. This Federalist Paper then established what we see here, US Constitution being the supreme or guiding law of the land. Broken into 3 branches, we have our government system: judicial, executive, and legislative. To further break down the legislative branch, we have Congress with the House of Representatives and the Senate. That allows for each branch to fiercely guard its own power from the other branches. And the legislative branch, because people did think at that time that Congress or the Senate will become too powerful, has a system of checks and balances embedded inside of the legislative branch by dividing them into 2 houses. So you see here the abilities of each, what they can do. Definitely, to understand more in depth, you can go back and watch that session. We talked about what a federalist was, right? We hear the terminology federalism, federalist, coming from that era. of establishing the United States and establishing the Constitution, and establishing the branches of government. And what does it mean? So instead of really diving into the definition, I did point out that you would have been a Federalist if you supported the Constitution and a stronger national republic. Republic in the pure sense of the definition. We're not talking about our two-party system of Republican and Democrat. Okay, so this is just talking about the pure definition of what it is to be a national republic. Okay, concerned with the preservation of liberty, shared the idea of a proper form of government with like-minded individuals, believed that a large national state or government is necessary to create a more perfect union by improving the relationship among states. So here you see national government, federalism, what it means to be a federalist, having this division, even local, state, national. We talked about power, okay? The ability to do something or act in a particular way, especially as a faculty or quality. The capacity or ability to direct or influence the behavior of others or the course of events. And with regards to energy, to move or travel with great speed or force. I also left you with a personal responsibility. What was that personal responsibility? To start really evaluating and then sharing information or asking questions, to people that are around you with regards to power. Who should have power, right? That was one of the questions. For whose benefit should this power be had? And then looking at whose expense should this power be had. Moving on to review session 2, we talked about Aristotle's modes of persuasion, talking about the use of persuasion as an ethical thing, not really talking about trying to trick or manipulate people, but looking at how you can be persuasive and concise to get what you are seeking and what your proposal is. So we saw that Aristotle broke those into 3 categories: ethos, pathos, logos. If you want to read more about that, you can read Aristotle's Rhetoric, and it describes the modes of persuasion. Logos is your logical argument for your point. We talked about using data-based arguments when you're trying to get your point across, come from a place of using data. Also, ethos is what establishes your authority to speak on the subject matter. So are you a trustworthy, credible source of information, right? In what ways are you going to assert that you are a credible and trustworthy authority in the area of what you're talking about? Talking about pathos, your attempt to sway your audience or listener by creating the right emotional environment, right? And so having a healthy balance of all of these 3 is what is going to get you what you're proposing and seeking. So building off of Aristotle's modes of persuasion, we then started talking about Robert Cialdini's 6 principles of ethical persuasion. Again, we're talking about ethical, right? A lot of people assume that power itself corrupts, but really what power does is expose corruption. And so what we see is that if you give power to someone that already has bad or negative character traits, then you will start to see the power being used corruptly, right? And so what we're talking about is using our authority, our logical arguments, and our ability to basically use emotion, right, to create a right emotional environment to ethically persuade and get your point across. We did go over these 6 principles. Definitely go back and see that reciprocity, right? What does it mean to give and then to receive? Liking, well, everyone wants to be liked, even if they say that, oh, I don't really care if people like me. That is not human nature. So we see liking as a principal. We like people that have something in common with us. We like people who are willing to collaborate with us and agree with us, right? Consensus. We talked about building with the networks that are also working on the same thing as you are, right? We talked about also using consensus in your conversations to build around the fact that this is something that should be considered, because other like-minded people are also requesting the same thing, and how to use the data to do that. Speaking from a place of authority and credibility. What is your track record? What is your proven history? Are you a credible source of information? We cannot assume that our listeners and those that we are focusing, targeting this conversation, that audience is going to necessarily have the most up-to-date, accurate information. So how are you exerting your authority as the credible, knowledgeable, trustworthy source in this area, and particularly because we are the National Parents Union, we're talking about in the area of education. Commitment and consistency. People, whether they tend to want to be or not, end up being creatures of habit, right? And how can you still operate with the notion of commitment and consistency, but not be a creature of habit? Because if we're looking at developing change and power, we don't want to be stuck in a little box where we habitually do the same thing. We want to be progressively moving forward in a positive sense. And so looking at the ways that you can use commitment and consistency by asking for a small goal to be reached, small proposal to be approved, and then building that commitment into a larger goal, because it will pay off in the end. And so really looking at that commitment as a public source of agreement. You want to get that public commitment, you want it in writing. And so that was something else that we talked about. Scarcity, right? How many of us know that what we have less of, or what we have less access to, we want more? Well, that's human nature. So we talked about how to use the principle of scarcity to build up your ethical persuasion in your argument. And then we went on to defining power, right? And I talked about practicing your skill, practicing in these areas until you master it. Here's Yoda saying to you, you want to know the difference between a master and a beginner. The master has failed more times than the beginner has ever tried. Think about that, right? And then the questions around, are you engaging in deliberate practice? Are you practicing your skill? Or are you just involved in mindless repetition? Talked about that creature of habit, being stuck in that mode of habitual, repetitive things, right? And how to break free from that. Constantly striving, are you constantly striving for improvement? Or are you just watching an expert perform? We talked about the fact that sometimes we think that people are experts, and really they're not. There could be someone who is responsible for education and making and decision-making position, like in the education committee of the Senate. You know, we can think about that person may be far removed from what is actually taking place, maybe has some adult children and experienced education and the impact of bad education during a decade or so ago. And now you're the person that needs to be bringing them that accurate, up-to-date information. It happens more than what you think. So being prepared for that. Monitoring your own performance, using that self-evaluation tool, watching your milestones, celebrating your milestones, right? I do it by keeping a photo album of the things that I did over the year. And though it might seem small at the time, when I add it all up at the end of the year, I see that, yes, I was able to deliberately engage and be able to monitor my performance that way. You may be a note taker. You can look over, you know, your calendar and monitor your performance that way. Whatever suits you, just make sure that you're doing the self-evaluation. And I will tell you, it does help you to grow and progress in the areas that you might not even realize that you have grown and progressed in. This is also something that you could utilize as a in your toolkit with your children to help them evaluate their progress as well, and where they're headed. and helping them to practice until they master by celebrating those milestones and then that big event as well at the end. So that's a part of evaluating your success. You do not want to be only doing the things that you're already good at, right? I think that our nature is to try to really just do what we're already good at. We know and we're confident, and then stepping out of that brings a level of discomfort. But the only way that you are going to be able to master something new is by actively engaging and practicing in it. Working on the aspects that you are, not good at. Yes, definitely want to be doing that. You see what Yoda says over here, right? The beginner didn't try, okay? Or are you going to stay in your comfort zone? Well, the type of work that we do in education, advocacy, and activism requires that you leave your comfort zone. And most of you probably already know that. All right. Take it away, Shay.
All right, I'm the game lady. So it is game time. We're gonna play Kahoot. This is now the time. If you check in the chat that I've put the pin, it will also end up on the screen. So let me share my screen. And you can always, if you didn't download Kahoot, that's totally cool. You can play along by participating in the chat as well. I did forget at the top of the hour to tell you all this is a webinar. And so you cannot, all right, yep, you guys can see that, good. Yes, can you guys see the game? Yes, Christina, you can see the game?
Yes.
Okay, good. I'm just double checking, have a new screen.
It's okay.
You guys cannot talk with us, but you can totally type in the chat if you have questions or comments. So I've got some players who's gonna come and play.
And you can also, if you did not download Kahoot, you can also type your answers into the chat.
100%. You can type just like the color because the answers will be color coded. All right, I got a couple players. I'm going to give it one more minute, see if anybody else wants to play. The first game we're playing is a review on session 1 and 2, but of course we just kind of mini reviewed. And so most of those answers that are going to come, Christina just covered again. All right, I've got 3 players. Let's see how the lineup goes, plus our chat. 3, 2, 1, ready to play. What does federalist mean, y'all? Is it red, a supporter of government in which the states unite under a central authority? Is it a belief that a republic can only function if it's small and independent? So red, if you believe that states need to unite under a central authority. There we go. Yes, federalist, that's what that means. That is how kind of our system is, right? We are within the states, but then we're also under the federal. Good job, y'all. All right, why are there 3 branches of government in our country? So everyone has a say, red, or blue for the separation of powers. What really is that true reason? Absolutely for the separation of powers. What is a compound government? Is that red, where the government has too many jobs, or blue, where power is shared between the federal and state government? Yep. So our power is shared. We have a compound government. Our power is shared between the federal and state government. Good job, y'all. All right, what is ethos? What is that thing? Is ethos establishing your authority? That's supposed to be to seek on a subject? I don't know what that word's supposed to be. Or blue, when your ego gets in the way of getting your point across. Authority to speak. That's what it's supposed to be. Red is supposed to be speak. Sorry, I messed that up. So it's establishing your authority to speak on a subject. That is what ethos is. Sorry about that. Sometimes it feels like our ego gets in the way, but ethos, when they were talking about that, that is establishing your authority to speak on a subject.
And Valerie is answering in the chat.
Awesome. Reciprocity. What is that reciprocity word? A practice of exchanging things with others for mutual benefit, or blue when a person or organization receives or is awarded something. So what is that reciprocity? Yes, it's that exchange for mutual benefit. It helps when I type out all the words correctly. All right, true or false? You can be an authority if you are credible and knowledgeable about the subject matter. Is that true or is that false? False would be no, you have to have a degree. No, you have to be trained in that area. No, you have to have power over someone. Or true, you can be an authority by being credible. So you can be an authority if you're credible and knowledgeable. For instance, I am an authority on my 4 boys. I spend a whole lot of time with them. So I know them best, much more than someone who only spends maybe a couple hours a week with them. Or no time at all with them, right? All right, here's our winners for game 1, Penelope and Natasha. And in first place, we have Martha. Awesome. Very good, y'all. Thank you for playing. I'm going to stop sharing. We will play one more game during this session. So I hope we'll have more players next time.
It's always exciting to watch everyone answer the questions. Thank you so much for participating in that. And so now we will be going back to, let me share my screen, back to the slides. Okay. All right, so we just finished Kahoot. Shay, can you blink twice if you can see the slides?
Yes, I can see the slides. Just click to the next one.
Okay, cool. All right, so now we will be starting our guided instruction for week 3, putting it into action. Well, what are we putting in action? Everything that we learned over the 2 sessions and what we're gonna learn tonight. So everyone understands chaos, right? As something that nobody wants to have to deal with, but we live in reality, and chaos does happen. So what is chaos defined as? We looked at chaos as complete disorder and confusion, behavior so unpredictable as to appear random, owing to great sensitivity to small changes in conditions. I'm going to briefly talk about chaos in theory and how those items may be unpredictable in a sense, but really not, because things can work together for a good in the end. And so looking at this picture right here, it says every single thing you do matters. You have been created as one of a kind. You have been created in order to make a difference. You have within you the power to change the world. And so what is the butterfly effect, right? So part of chaos theory, the butterfly effect is a phenomenon whereby minute localized change in a complex system can have large effects elsewhere. Well, how did this come to be, right? The butterfly effect is the sensitive dependence on initial conditions in which a small change in one state of a deterministic nonlinear system can result in large differences in a later state. I know that sounds really scientific, but we're just gonna really just talk about how those minor events, small changes can lead to a tremendous effect. Some of you might not realize anything about this. So the person that actually coined this terminology and came up with the ideology around the butterfly effect was named Edward Lorenz, right? And so in the context of atmospheric predictability, so he was using it for like weather, scientific things. It's used for our weather predictions, just really looking at that. The butterfly effect is real in the sense that small changes at small scales can change the weather forever. Like I said, it was used to predict weather, right? But he was saying that a butterfly flapping its wings in Tokyo could have a huge impact on the countries over. And so we don't know if that's quite true, but we can definitely use this as a model of how to make sense of chaos at times. So if you can see right here, the butterfly effect, how strange that even a very minor event, action, or small shift can have such a tremendous effect, like butterfly's wings, and is capable of altering the path of tornado. Certainly everything, even the very tiny thing, can affect everything. And I want you to just be thinking about it in this sense, right? What if Malcolm X never existed, right? What would have happened if Hitler, didn't exist? And I know that that's, someone that we like to look at as non-beneficial in the things that he did. And I'm not saying that he is, but if you could just think of how one set of events or even one small event that may take place during history or during time had an impact on a much greater scale than we could even imagine. And we're still feeling what people like to call either the domino effect, the ripple effect, the butterfly effect to this day, right? How that has in really one minute shift or one minute detail or one small action or one minor event can really have a tremendous effect, creating differences in what we see today. And if you think about them not existing, then you can think about maybe potentials that would have happened. There used to be a movie called Butterfly Effect, which was really interesting. And every time the guy went back and tried to change the course of actions and kind of make it worse, and so looking at history as a linear thing, but really not so linear when it comes to what is happening in real life. That is what we can see as the butterfly effect. And so any single thing that you do, any small action, any minor event, any small shift can have a tremendous effect. Okay, so now I wanted to talk about this idea of being disruptive, right? What happens when you see that the system is cyclical, things are happening continually, you're trying to break through, you're trying to be diplomatic, and then suddenly you realize that the diplomacy is not working out for you. You have probably been taught to understand the concept of disruption in a bad sense, like a child that may be yelling out in class, or someone that just like busts through the door unexpectedly, right? But in the sense of organization and business and all other aspects of systemic change, disruption is actually looked at as something that is beneficial. So let's look at the raw form definition of disruption: the act or process of disrupting something, a break or interruption in the normal course of continuation of some activity, process, etc. So did you know that there is a concept and a strategy around business disruption? If some of you might have small businesses or maybe large businesses, I'm not really sure, but that type of disruption refers to a process in which the market entrants come armed with non-conventional business models, and what at their outset seem to be poor performing products actually come to challenge, eventually replace industry incumbents over time. So we see that taking place in our market, right? Where there is a product and it might have seemed like something so small, but that business owner comes into the market disruptively, and aggressively in order to stake their claim and be able to perform over time and make it in the industry. But we also, in practice, can look at disruption as happens when traditional value drivers in an existing market are significantly changed, typically by a new player that enters into an existing market with technology or business model, or the combination of two, providing a new kind of value that differs from the incumbent's offering. So that's where we see concepts of innovation and creativity. When we look at systems, when we look at the way that the government system, institutions, and structures, especially education, we see that they're rigid, and they really don't have space to be innovative and creative. A lot of times they're slow to move and be flexible. And so being disruptive is going to create that ripe environment for innovation, for creativity. You see right here, disrupting the ebb and flow means you are breaking cycles and patterns, challenging institutional and systemic behavior, and shattering societal norms and the status quo. We can see the way that this arrow is moving: innovation, disruption, doing the same things a bit better, doing new things, disruption, making things that make the old things obsolete, right? So think about that when you're really thinking about how can you break through the norm? How can you break through that ebb and flow, that cyclical, perpetual, systemic type of behavior? You do have to be disruptive, and you do have to look at it in a positive sense, not the negative sense that we were taught about it. One narrative, but not really fully understanding that there are breaks or interruptions in normal courses of action that need to take place. And that person that to bring that break is going to be you. And so there's a business guru, and his name is Gordon Treadgold. And I like what he says. He says, at this moment, you are either disrupting or being disrupted. Think about that. At this moment, you're either disrupting or being disruptive. I thought that I would share some of the ways that I had to move from diplomacy into those non-conventional ways, using the power of protest, using the power of the press, taking my activism and my advocacy to a higher level. Right here, you can see that I was a part of a Black parent strike at the Capitol in California here. And these signs had the data, like I said, forming that logical argument, but it's still a part of the disruptive process. They're very true. The system wants to trap my son in a failing school. Yes, as you can see here, thousands of children showed up at the Democratic national debates in Los Angeles to fight for their quality education, right? And tell the candidates that we do not want our quality schools to be hindered, altered, eradicated. We definitely see the value in having that quality education. And as you can see, there were other people there. Right here, again, at the Black parent strike. Right here, another day in Sacramento, fighting against some toxic bills that were put together to try to hinder or eradicate, put a moratorium on our educational platforms. And so you can see, I also, on occasion, take my children with me. There's my son, there's my daughter. We're all a part of the activism and advocacy when it comes to quality education. And here we are right there. So there are times when you will have to create campaigns, have to rally with like-minded individuals, have to use the power of protesting your First Amendment rights to do so safely, not in a criminal way, but this is part of what you can do to disrupt the ebb and flow of things happening the way that they are and get your statement across when diplomacy fails. And you will find that it is necessary. Right now, because we've been in this pandemic, it's very hard to do this. So we will be talking about, as we go along, ways to do this, even from home and being online. Oh, so I wanted to talk about, as we review these actions, why disruption is necessary, right? We are definitely looking at systemic change, how to create those quality educational platforms that we know our children so desperately need. We look at the data, we see that the system has failed. But again, sometimes there's a fear of the disruption. Intimidation of the new can be one of the reasons why institutional behavior has mechanisms to self-protect and self-repair. We do not find that systems are eagerly and ready to be flexible. They are rigid. These self-healing mechanisms are embedded deeply, creating an environment where newness and innovation are a direct challenge to their order of operations. Thus, you must be disruptive. To break cyclical patterns, you have to enter disruptively, and it will give you the power to upset the order and challenge those systemic norms. We can see that happened all throughout last year, where we saw worldwide, people were just saying enough. We saw a great parent awakening where it was like, look, this type of education hasn't been working for a while. We need what is going to work. But the system always pushes back. And so we have to continue to push it with disruptively to challenge those norms. Shift in behavior, right? Things constantly and rapidly evolve and change. Nothing is meant to stay the same. True progress mandates movement in order to obtain a positive flow of outcomes. Institutional systemic behavior is stagnant and foundationally set. It operates under a business as usual assumption, lowest risk and investment model. So if you think about that, right? When you are battling for your child and you notice that it's just the same thing over and over again, that is the way that institutions and systems function. It's embedded in them to do so. Business as usual, what I like to call it, is them taking very low risk, not changing, being rigid, not wanting to shift in their behavior. And so being disruptive in this sense, after you've tried everything else, creates a ripe environment for adaptive and lasting changes. It is counterproductive to expect the system to have returns with a low risk, low investment model. How are they going to have high returns when they are not investing what is absolutely necessary to give our children a high quality education? And so you, as the parent, have to be able to say, this is not going to work, and I am going to battle for what my child needs. True change requires risk, doing something that you have not traditionally done. Well, we saw that through the butterfly effect. We saw that through the beginning where I said that if you, in the reflection point, that you have to be willing to be that outlier, to be that person that will do something that everyone else isn't doing. And though it may seem odd at the time, usually when everyone else catches up, then they'll realize you were right all along. And taking that risk is going to be a part of being of disruption. So institutions and systems, we know, have an inability to be agile. Large entities take too long to make decisions and implement them. We saw that last year when we saw that education was not rolled out for most of America's children in a timely fashion. School systems are still battling to find students, if they're even looking, I don't know, right? And then still battling to keep schools closed, of course, for safety reasons. But what they're offering as far as education, structured learning time, structured learning plans is not what we as parents would deem as quality. And it's been that way for a long time. And so they typically have the monopoly. We saw that too, right? Where it was heavily captured by the unions and different things like that. And they were able to control the educational landscape in ways that we definitely didn't feel like we as parents had our voices heard, our authentic experiences and the impact it was having on our children heard at all. They don't have an incentive to operate differently. And so when you realize that, you have to look at the use of disruption, right? When they have the monopoly and no incentive to operate differently, especially when the cost that is associated to real progress and change will reduce their revenue stream, right? And so we look at, why is it so hard for our children to have a high quality education? What is so difficult about getting agreement and consensus and collaboration on that from the system? And why at the same time are they trying to keep our children trapped by not offering and allowing high quality options and choices? They block them all the time. Well, the government knows if you had a choice, you're not going to choose them, right? Think about that, right? And so looking at ways to disrupt that structural exploitation that takes place, all so that they can maintain their revenue stream, definitely have to be willing to escalate your actions above what is sometimes considered just being diplomatic. And I showed you examples here. We'll go to the next slide. And
all right, in the chat is the pen. I'm going to share my Kahoot screen. All right, waiting for some players to join me. This is a really easy one. This is only like 2 questions, y'all. So come on over and play the game. Again, this helps Christina know, you know, kind of if the content is getting across. It helps you to kind of solidify that content as you're rewatching it in a different way, using different parts of our brain. All right, I've got a couple players. Anybody else want to join us? I know we got some more people on the call. Zoom, webinar, what do we want to call it? All right, you can always join even after we start, but again, we only have 2 questions, and you can participate in the chat. So here we go. This is our chaos and disruption. 3, 2, and 1. Here we go. What does disruption mean, y'all? Red, the existing state of affairs, especially regarding social, political issues, or is it, yes, the interruption of the normal course or continuation of an activity or process? You all are faster than I can read. Good. This is a poll. When a major event, action, or small shift can produce a tremendous effect, we call that what? Red, the butterfly effect? Yes. Or I tried to trick you with the dragonfly effect. I tricked no one. You all know the butterfly effect. They learned it, Christina. All right, let me take a picture of the podium and then I'll... So Martha, you're in 3rd place, and that's mostly just because it's all about speed too. And Penelope and Hot Fingers is Natasha. Gets the hot finger. Whoop, whoop. She's really fast at clicking the right clicker. So good job, y'all. Thank you guys for playing. It kind of just breaks up, you know, the session and gets us all going. So great job.
And like I continue to say, it's always exciting for me to see the winners pop up. I'm so glad. This is a lot of content and a lot of information. And so I am so glad that you're able to process that information and learn something. Again, we're recording. And so if you want to go back and look at this another time to get more information from it and learn by practicing, definitely do that. So we are going to be moving into our examples. So what I'm going to do is bring up our National Parents Union Toolkit, where we have collated the ways that you can apply some of the things that we're talking about here in your activism and your advocacy, how to do it diplomatically, but then what's going to happen when you can no longer use diplomacy is what we were talking about. I told you earlier in the session that we will show you ways to do this from home while we're all doing everything online. And so let me go ahead and bring that up. And my wonderful delegates, teammates here are going to give you some great explanations and uses about our toolkit. If you have not visited this site, definitely check it out, nationalparentsunion.org. We have resources. The data is right here under polling if you need data. We have our membership application, what we were doing around Every Family Votes, how to become a partner organization, our legislative corner. And here is the toolkit. Okay, take it away. How to organize a successful rally.
All right, so they're having me chat about this one. I have done a few rallies. I am in Texas, so that's where my rallies have been. I have participated in some rallies at the U.S. Capitol, and my phone, hold on. My computer is gonna turn off. I didn't plug it in, hold on.
I definitely would say when you have time to go and view this toolkit, again, we have taken strategies and tactics and developed and collated them in order to help you in your processes.
Absolutely. So number one, be prepared, right? Maybe plug in if you're going to be doing a virtual rally. All of my rallies so far, I've done a few things online, but mostly in person over the years. Have a clear purpose. What is the purpose of your rally, right? What are you trying to, what is the goal? What are you trying to make happen or stop from happening? And make sure your participants who are attending your rally know what that rally is about. Both beforehand and have like some flyers, ways to hand, so that when they're there, they're like, what are we talking about again? Right? Because they're busy dealing with work and school with their kids and all sorts of things. They need to remember exactly why are we here. So in case someone asks them, they do have some good talking points. You're going to want a prime location. So figuring out what the best location for your rally, your protest, your demonstration is. Whether that's the Capitol, the location of maybe where an event happened that you're protesting against. Is it a parade? Is it something on the sidewalk? Is it by City Hall? And then once you come up with that location, do you need a permit to utilize that location, right? Even on the sidewalk, I'm in Austin, Texas, you have to have a permit to gather on the sidewalk. And there's rules like you can't have a table and you can't be in front of doors of businesses, things like that. Okay, so you have to find that kind of stuff out, and you can Google how to have a rally in X city, okay? Are you gonna need a PA system? Is there one that you can purchase or borrow or rent from the facility even? The Texas Capitol has one that you can pipe in, and they have speakers they'll bring out for you that you rent. Or are you just going to, go and get a megaphone from Amazon and speak megaphone, or stand on a soapbox and speak in that way? It's really good if you have some champions, if it's something like at the Capitol or the City Hall, people who are known, whether they're legislators, if you're trying to fight for a bill or against a bill, having a champion for or against that, as well as a known figure in your community so that you can promote that person's going to be there. That will get you more people at your protest or demonstration or rally. And then make a press release, a week ideally at least, letting the press know that this is happening so that they can send out some media people to come and tape or do some things. Think about timing too. If you're right at lunchtime, do you need to feed these people, right? And what does that look like? In Texas, if you are feeding people on the grounds itself of the Capitol, you have to feed anyone who walks by. So that's, the staff members, anybody, not just people at your rally. So we go off-site, just right outside the gates, and feed just the people at our rally because we don't have $1 bazillion to feed whoever walks by, right? So there's just different rules about where you're doing it. What's the best time of day? all that kind of thing. When you're thinking about it, make sure your people that you want to come have as much notice as possible. 5 to 7 days really for parents at least. They need to ask off work, or they need to pull their kid out of school. They need to be able to figure out how they're going to get to the location. But if there's an urgent need, then you obviously can do a shorter time period. Sometimes if it's a statewide or region-wide event, do you have monies? Can you ask somebody to give you some monies to bus people in, to bring them in so that they can come? Ideal number is about 3 speakers. If after about 3, I've done up to 5, but you start losing people because they're just like, and then they start kind of wandering off and they're not as engaged. And if you have multi-language audience, include some multi-language speakers, right? And then when you're organizing, you're going to need an organization of, you cannot do this by yourself. Well, it's really hard to do it by yourself. So I would say have a core team, even a handful of like-minded people to help you organize that rally, that protest, that demonstration. So you can have a team leader, that does the permits and is the main contact. You've got your media liaison who's going to meet with the media, make sure they get to, you, the leader, or whoever it is. If you figure out, ooh, that person has a good story, so that the media liaison can get in touch with those people. Now, if we are doing this at this time and it is in person, make sure you're having COVID precautions. And you can have a plan for that, right? Letting people know to stay 6 feet away from each other, masks are mandatory, whatever you're gonna mandate. Maybe you're gonna go out and buy a whole bunch of hand sanitizer and pass it out as reminders. Are you gonna provide signage, right? Because if people are just walking by, they need to know what it's about. You saw Christina's pictures, every picture had a sign. So if the media picked it up, or somebody walking by, or the people who need to make those decisions only get a glimpse, a 1 second, they know exactly what your message was, right? So are you providing signs? Are you providing or asking people to bring them with something easy? And then I always have a little go-to bag with some snacks, some waters, because you're going to dehydrate. Wear comfy shoes. My very first one, not comfy shoes. I was trying to look cute. Yeah, that was a bad idea. So where it is not about looking cute, because you're going to be sweaty and gross and your phone might die. So have some chargers, but some snacks, honestly, for yourself, if you're in charge for kind of your committee or organizing. So that's kind of my go-to rally things. Check out the toolkit for rallies.
And Shay, I agree. I have shown up for protests and rallies in heels and had to just suck it up, right? So you definitely want to make sure that you have comfortable shoes on if you plan on doing a public protest, which is your right under the First Amendment. And we've seen that, throughout the courses of action last year, continuing to see the impact that they have even this year, and saw how national attention and international attention was gained in one location from protesting, right? And so there is a safe way during the pandemic to still execute on your First Amendment rights and do what is necessary. All right, how to connect with school administrators and elected officials. Take it away, Judith.
Hi, everyone. So I'm coming with this with 2 perspectives, as a previous math teacher and as a current elected official. So it is a fascinating space to be in, trying to connect with school administrators and elected officials, because each one has different perspectives, each one has different personalities, and it's kind of, you have to learn how to approach people and figure out their needs. So in the toolkit, and Christina, I can't click on it from here.
All right, let me go ahead and
click on it. Yeah. And our toolkit is really detailed, really detailed, with steps on what you need to do. I'm going to tell you right now, as a school teacher, of course, you always want to go to the teacher first. If you're seeing an issue, go to the teacher. Sometimes, unfortunately, the teacher might be the issue, but try at the lowest, the lowest level is not the right word to use, but start with the teacher. Try to figure out what the issue is and identify the issue. Now, I will tell you, as a parent, when you have an issue that has to do with your child and your baby, the logic sometimes goes out of it just goes away and the emotions come in. And so one of the things that we're really good here at the National Parent Union is to make sure that surround yourself with people that you can tell what's going on so they can help you identify and articulate the issue. I always love that parents just show up naturally as they are, but sometimes we want to be effective and, just stepping back and trying to identify that issue. And our toolkit here gives you some questions to go through. And, what are you wanting to achieve? What changes do you want to happen? Why do you want this to happen? So there's some great questions here to help you identify that issue. And Al, I see your hand up. If you want to tap your question in the comments, we'll make sure to get to it. Thank you, Al. So step 2, try to solve the issue at the lowest level possible. And that's what I'm saying. I dislike the word lowest, because I believe we all serve a purpose in education. And so there's no lowest. I believe the teachers are the ones doing the work every day with our children, but try to go with the teacher. Now, if there is a school issue, again, build that relationship with your child's teacher, because I kid you not, they're going to have inside knowledge more than you are aware of what's happening within the school and what's happening within the district. So not only do you have an ally for you for your child, but it's oftentimes hard for teachers to speak up. And so they can give you that inside knowledge. And again, there's that team, right? That they can help you identify and articulate that issue in a way that benefits not just your child, but children as a whole. And a lot of us that do this work are not just in here for our children. We want all children to benefit from what we're doing in our activist work. So again, our toolkit, if you go through here, it gives you a protocol for the first meeting. It will give you what to do during the meeting. Just give you clear steps on that. So if you're not looking at our website at that toolkit, please do. This one's very, very detailed. So when I say now you start with the teacher, the school building administrator, you're not being heard. So now we are going to elevate the issue, right, to like superintendents or higher. Why you sometimes don't want to do that right away is because and they will tell you maybe, no, this won't happen. But once you elevate it too quickly, you might shut down that communication at the lowest level. And where your child's more affected by this will be at the lowest level with a teacher, with a school building administrator. So we want to, again, make sure that we are at that lowest level first before we elevate it to a superintendent. But if we're not being heard, here we go, superintendent. So our toolkit gives you the step 3 of being able to elevate that concern, not just to an administrator, but to an elected official, city leadership, and actually building a campaign around that. So as an elected official, I will tell you, we will go through a section of writing letters. Try to research that elected official, how they vote, how they see things, how they speak, because when you do approach them, you want to be able to guide that conversation in the way that they will understand you. And again, I dislike telling parents you have to mold yourself to what the needs are of these elected officials, but being able to enter their minds, being able to have a conversation with them, being able for them not to shut down on you is important. Watch videos of how they speak, how they articulate when they're speaking. You will be able to pick up on what's their passion, right? Are you able to connect with them in that way? But on here, it's step 3. I'm going into too much detail, but step 3 will give you where you go and find that information on who's on the school board, who is the superintendent. Call, if you want to say, how do I communicate with this person? What's the best way to communicate? Pick up the phone and call their office. City leadership, again, easy enough. I think one of the things we freak out as parents is, we put these people in high places and they're too hard to reach, but they're human beings. And most of them are parents. So they understand, our frustrations and our struggles with education. So it's important communicate with them at that level, as that parent, to be able to connect with them. So building a campaign, and the toolkit goes through all this, writing letters, send an email, call, use social media. And we'll go a little further on that on our social media part. But the awesome part about the toolkit, it will give you sample opening statements, understanding educational language and terms. A lot of times when you're having a meeting with educators, superintendents, they're going to throw out LEA. And I think Christina did this to me the other day. She goes, LEA. And I'm like, wait, what is that? And it's so funny because your brain will stop at that, acronym, and you're like, I'm lost now because I don't know what that is. So make sure you familiarize. And our toolkit does have some that are highly used in these spaces. Go ahead in the social, if it's an IEP meeting, a lot of our dear IEP parents know these acronyms by now, and if you don't, go ahead and email us, contact us, and we'll support you in that way, or Google. Yeah, Google. But the problem is when you're having that conversation, that usually stops you in your tracks, and then you're not able to focus on the whole conversation. So it's okay to go, hey, what does LEA mean? And that's really normal to those questions to be asked. So again, look through our toolkit. We have resources with links available. I don't think this is showing on your screen, right, Christina?
I am sharing the resources.
Okay,
Can you
perfect.
see it?
I can
And
see it now.
also there are templates right here. As Judith said, we are here to help you, sort through these resources in the language. So at the bottom, you'll see our policy committee contacts. I'm the director of policy and legislation. Here are our delegates that are maybe in your region, maybe not, but still available for contact. So definitely you can find out their information there, and all a part of the policy committee. So we're definitely willing to explain any of these things that you may have a question on.
Yeah. And this is scary. Like, if you haven't done this before, this can be very scary and daunting, but it's all a learning process. And the more you do it, the more you get better at it. But seriously, if you do have any concerns or want to, build your plot to go speak to your teacher and administrator and, go through the toolkit and want to present it to one of us, feel free to reach out. And then, get that criticism back. And it just, we want you to be more effective to be able to support your child in their education. So thank you.
Thank you, Judith. And we'll definitely help you create and develop an escalation plan if those things don't work. Always willing to help you do that. And everybody that knows me knows that I have no problems protesting, right? So
it's her favorite, and she's good at it.
Okay, thank you, Judith. How to form partnerships and allies and co-conspirators. Maritza, take it away.
Hello, everybody. The first thing that I'm going to say on a personal note is to always, it's stated here in the toolkit, be authentic, be true to yourself, and truly do your homework in making sure that you get to know whomever it is that you feel would be good for what you're trying to do and forming that partnership and that relationship. The first thing you want to make sure you do is to try to connect with that person directly. Have a sit-down conversation with possible. I mean, of course, in this time of COVID, it could be a phone conversation, it could be a video call, whether it's a FaceTime call or Google Duo, Google Meet, a Zoom call, whatever you have access to, unless you decide to go to a place and actually truly socially distance. Try to make that connection with that person, giving them a phone call, sending them an email, reaching out, letting them know whether you're an individual or you're speaking to someone on behalf of an organization. Try to make that connection. Do your homework on that person and try to see if there is a commonality, if there's something there that you both feel really strongly and passionate about, just like Shay and Judith stated earlier. make that connection with that person. See if what they believe in strongly and are fighting for is the same thing you believe in strongly and are fighting for. Be prepared. Absolutely, be prepared to share what you bring as far as your potential. Let that person know exactly what it is that you wish to accomplish, who it is that you're representing, if you're just representing yourself or if you're representing a group of individuals. And then as far as making sure that when you have that conversation, make sure to follow up. If someone is telling you, yes, sure, Maritza, I'd like to meet with you, why would you like to meet with me? After explaining that to them, make sure you go back around and say, okay, based on what we just had a conversation about, why don't we go ahead and schedule a date and time to really sit down and get to the nuts and bolts of what has to happen, how the work is going to happen. Don't let things fall by the wayside. Don't forget about that person. And establishing a presence in social media, those of you that may not be too comfortable with it, Facebook is an absolutely amazing way to start it. Find out if there are any other organizations or individuals or parents that are interested in what you're interested in. Reach out to them. You'd be surprised how many people feel the same way you do. If you notice that when you put a particular post up on your Instagram or your Facebook, or if you have Twitter, you'd be surprised at how many people live in your actual same state or city or region that feel the same way you do. There's nothing wrong with sending them a message. If you're uncomfortable with the private DMs, do it in wherever you see someone commented on something that you feel very strongly about, reach out to them publicly. Say, hey, can we chat? Can I DM you? Ask permission in this day and time, because not everybody accepts a private message from a person they've never really spoken to for, without even knowing them. Always ask them, hey, do you have a moment? Do you mind if I send you a private message so that we can have a conversation? Anything that you do, anytime you're somewhere fighting for your cause, if it's captured, if it's captured via a video recording, if it's captured in photo, if it happened to come up in a newspaper, somebody's blog, somebody's podcast, post about it, talk about it, let people know you're involved. One thing that research, if there's someone that you constantly see out there putting messages out there, research us. You can go to National Parents Union webpage and see all of us that are here today. Speaking to you, you've seen us. We may have a platform. We may have been part of an editorial for a newspaper publication. We may have been part of another individual's podcast, another organization's podcast. Look us up. We're out there. Do the same thing with the people that you want to get connected to. Make sure you nurture those relationships. Make sure you support that person, that organization, that group of parents, whenever they have something going on. And that is one of the best way of forming your networks. Everyone is supporting each other. If there's a group of people that you like what they're doing, you like what they're saying, and they're about to have, a rally, they're about to do a podcast, they're about some kind of special event, show them that you're also supportive of their work, and you guys can maintain that wonderful relationship. Keep a contact with everyone you come in contact with, whether it be email, whether it be phone numbers for text messages. You'd be surprised how many times I may meet a person. In this day and age, not many people do business cards anymore. What they quickly will do though, what's your Facebook handle? What's your Instagram handle? What's your Twitter handle? Hey, let me get your phone number, your email, and immediately create a group, an email group, a text group. Although I hate text threads and email threads, create a group, and when things happen, send it all to them at one time. It'll be a definite time saver. Reach out to us at National Parents Union if you have any kind of need for some support. We have identified members and organizational partners throughout this country, including Puerto Rico, who would be here to help you. And regarding this particular topic, as far as partnering, creating partnerships, allies, and co-conspirators, you can reach out to one of our delegates by the name of Christy Joyce. You can reach out to our Chief of Strategy and Planning. That's her information, Marisol Quevedo. We're very open to questions about anything regarding that, about if you don't know where to start, we can happily guide you. You can email one of us. We can happily help you start that process off if this is not something that you're used to doing.
Thank you, Marisa. And, you know, I have to say that in an age of technology and having social media and things not being slow to travel through, like you put a message or a hashtag up, and that thing is around the world in 5 seconds or less. I don't even know how to tell you how important hashtags are. You can create a whole movement out of hashtags. And if for the bold and audacious of you, you can tag or put at your elected officials on your Twitter. I've done it with the U.S. Department of Education people. It doesn't matter. I am speaking directly to you, and this is public information. I'm tagging, I'm putting at. And so you can create a whole movement through social media. All right. How to write advocacy and informational letters to different audiences.
I think that was mine.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm chuckling over here because I'll gear this to the parents that don't like writing like me. I'm very insecure in my writing sometimes, and I say that with all intention because there's the parents that love to write, and they're going to be good at it. They're going to figure it out. But for us, like, what do we do? And so in our toolkit, we do have some examples. There's 2 from Christy Moreno. She's our delegate from Kansas City. But I'm just going to give you strategies of how to support you if writing's not your thing. Because I believe if you love to write and you know how to write, this is golden for you. But one of the things is that has been shown to me is sometimes you're able to speak better than you write. So record yourself talking your points. And then if you have your phone, there's actually apps that transcribe that for you. And just copy and paste that to a letter. What's important, because sometimes you want to find the structure to make sure your ideas are concise. Look through our Facebook page, look through our website, Google. And like I said, we are experts. We love this. Send it to us. We can help you edit it. We can help you concise it, make it clear. We would be honored to do that. So, but one of the things is how to write those effective letters. Go back to the toolkit again of how to, the one where I was talking about what is the issue that you're seeing, to be able to answer those questions and articulate that. I know we only have 2 examples in our toolkit, but Google is your friend on this one. Articulating it correctly is your friend on this one. And so, Google other organizations, you had resources there and see what language they're using, because sometimes you're not, when it comes to an issue with your child, that emotion again kicks in, and it's hard to sometimes articulate that, what is going on in detail concisely. So look at other organizations that advocate for the same thing in education and look at what language they're using. Look at what verbiage they're using, and don't copy and paste and use the exact same thing, but kind of use that to frame your ideas, right? And even again, go back and record that. You find something that, oh man, that really sits right with me. Then go ahead and speak about it and record yourself and let that app transcribe what you're saying and then put it all in a letter beautifully. And send it to one of us. If you don't have a trusted source, send it to one of us to really help you edit. I mean, that's the best advice I can give you, because I believe those that can write, and then go back to our all the surveys and the data that we have on our website that's beautifully done, and use some of that in your writing too. The polling. Thank you, Christina. So go into the polling. There's a lot. I mean, if you like numbers, I don't think many people like numbers like I like numbers, but look through here and see what is really talking to you. Because again, sometimes you don't have those words to, you have this emotion for your child, this is going on. You don't have those words, and just start Googling and looking at our stuff here and getting that idea. Oh, I want to look more into this right here. This this validates my issue right now. And going in through, me and Christina always talk about going in through that rabbit hole. Once you start researching something, you keep going. But this is really how you construct that writing, that letter, that email that you want to send to someone, that to be direct and on point. So I hope that helps. And I'm gearing this more to the people that don't like to write or are afraid or are self-conscious of their writing. This is just some tips that I do and that helps me try to figure how to write concisely. So thank you.
All right. And so definitely check out the website. There's lots of stuff right here to help you out. And let's see, we are going to, almost lost my place, Shay.
That's all right. We're talking social media.
First day off of winter break during Winter Advocacy Boot Camp, and I'm tongue-tied. And so take it away.
All right. So I'm talking social media. One of the things that I found really helpful, if you're trying to initiate or continue or push a movement or an objective or a goal, figure out who your audience or your co-conspirators, your family, the group of other parents that are also wanting to get that point across. What social media do they use, right? If they're more my age, right, then they're probably going to use Facebook. If they're like in their, over 30, then they're going to be in Facebook. But my kids who are in their 20s, yeah, they're not on Facebook, y'all. They are on Twitter, on Insta, and on some other stuff I don't even know about. So find out what your demographic is using and go use it. Do not just stick just to Facebook. Know that Twitter is the place where policy is happening. That is where the conversation is happening for policy and education. And like Christina talked about before, hashtags are powerful. So come up with a hashtag that's really simple to understand and point it and gets your point across. Parent power, I trust parents, those kinds of things with that hashtag. So you do the hashtag, you don't do a space, and then you come up with a couple, 1, 2, maybe 3 words for your hashtag. And then like Christina talked about, doing the @ so you hit @ and then you can look for the Twitter handles of your legislators, of your city hall people, right? Of your school board members, whoever is making the decisions that you're fighting for, against, with, whatever it is. Make sure you're including them. They personally may not see it, honestly, but their staff will. And if their staff gets that attention and they know that they're hitting it, you've got a bazillion people adding them with this certain hashtag, or this graphic, right? A great graphic tool is Canva. There are some free Canva options. There's other tools like Canva. If you just Google Canva, it will come up with a bunch of different ones. It gives you templates of the pretty things, and then you put in your words, you put in your pictures, right? And then you can go right from Canva or some of these other platforms for the graphics and put it, boom, right on Twitter, boom, right on Facebook. You can start a Facebook group just based on, what your movement kind of is. And then one thing that I've learned to do in the last couple of years is to follow like-minded people. If you are about homeschooling, you are about education options, you are about the inequities in education, look and see who else is saying those same things, follow them. And then the cool thing is when you hit follow, go over to the left-hand side of Facebook and it will give you other options of other people to follow. Facebook already knows who is like-minded, right? And so then it's like, ooh, them too? Oh yeah, follow them. Oh yeah, and them. So then you can kind of see what is already happening in that space. And then the really good trick is to follow the opponents to that movement. So you know what they're saying, and you can, use their words and go, oh, really? Is that what you think? Well, me as a parent, this is what I think. But you're not going to know what their argument is unless you're, following them and seeing what they're doing. So it is very powerful, very fast moving. And honestly, when I first started doing some social media, I literally had to put like a little thing on my calendar. Every Tuesday at 2, go on to Twitter. Because it wasn't part of my everyday life. And now I'm, I get up in the morning, I check and see what's on Twitter, I see what Christina was saying on there, and other like-minded people, and then other opponents, just so that then I'm kind of armed with that information. And information is power, right? And we need to get our information and our push out there, and social media is a very powerful way, especially during COVID when we cannot be as much in person. You can let masses know what you want to say. So yay, social media.
And you see, we here at National Parents Union definitely got your back. We encourage you to tag the National Parents Union in your posts. And so I'll be excited and looking forward to those tags. All right, we are at our last one before we go into our closing. And it is publicizing your work, how to reach local press and media. Power of the press.
Hello, everybody. So with regards to what's a press release? A press release is an official statement delivered to members of the news media for the purpose of providing information, an official statement, or making an announcement. So you're part of a group of parents that are really adamant about something that's going on either at your school or at your school district. Let the press know what's going on. Wherever there's a large group of people need to know why they've gathered, what their reason is, what their position is. Involve the press. The press can be your ally many times. Don't be afraid of them to reach out to them. For those of you that are really avid newspaper publication readers, reach out to those folks that you really read, that you enjoy reading their stuff, what they put out there, that you read on a continual basis. Say, hey, I'm going to be part of this action, because that's what it's called. Whenever you go out there and do something in a group, in unison, it's called an action. Let them know there's going to be an action on this particular day for this particular reason. It'd be great if we had some local media press coverage, whether it be radio, TV, social media. Many of the, check out, your favorite news person, the favorite channel you like watching, the 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 11 o'clock, early morning news. Reach out to them to let them know. Tag them in a Twitter post. Use a hashtag, add them, say, hey, my organization is going to be here. We're going to be at the next school district meeting. We're going to be at the state capitol. Come out to us. In your press release, make sure you have on the letterhead, on letterhead or your logo of your organization if you have one. The media contact information, what the headline would be, what is the reason why you're going to be having this action. Let them know what the deck is. It's a sub-headline with additional information, the date of when your action is going to occur, an introduction about who the organization is, who you are, what, the W's, who, what, when, where, and why. Make sure to include that, the background, why the event is so important. It was stated earlier, if you're at your wit's end, or your school community is at their wit's end with trying to affect change, trying to get something changed in their particular school that they're not happy with, that they're not getting enough response from their local school, from their school leader, you're going to be reaching out to the school district meeting. Let in advance, if you can garner enough people to be at a particular school district meeting, believe me, the press will come to you and ask what's going on. Make sure to add something about who you are again in the organization. If you include a photo, can we have 2 examples of what an immediate press looks like? You can use that as a template. There are 2 examples. We don't want anyone to be an absolute perfect reporter or press person. I definitely am not. I myself also, I talk, but writing specifically, making sure that everything is grammatically correct and perfect, that may not be my forte. But I can reach out to any one of my colleagues in the NPU and say, hey, I want to write this. I want to submit this. I want to post this. If I don't feel too comfortable, can you review it and look at it before it makes sense? Please don't be afraid to do that. You know, and if you want help in determining who to send it to, Google your newspaper and your media outlets. You know, find out. Get the email to the correct person. Send an email. You'd be surprised. I reached out to one of our local news reporters here in Philadelphia. I reached out to her via Twitter, and she got back to me. I explained to her who we were, and she knows that I'm part of the National Parents Union, and now she sees what we're about, and now she's reaching back. You'd be surprised. It will happen. We have two great folks and part of the National Parents Union that, you know, their contact information is in the toolkit. Don't be afraid to reach out and say, hey, I saw this advocacy webinar, excuse me. I'd like to get some more information. I'd like a little bit of guidance where I can, you know, start this process of being more engaging with the press, with the media, so that when myself or my organization wants to, you know, do an action out there in the community or at the state capitol, you know, we have enough coverage, because the more coverage you get, the more eyes on your situation, you'd be surprised on how things start to change. Because whoever's posing with your sees that you not only have the power of a group backing you, but you also have the power of the community based on what they saw in that press coverage. So the press and local media are very important, and it's learn how to reach out so they can then be one of your future endeavors you may have.
Thank you again. And so we have successfully completed the bulk of this session. And then too, again, we at National Parents Union definitely have your back when it comes to exposing and discussing these things in a public sense. We have shows that air throughout the day. The majority of us have a show that you can view or become a participant on. You know, if you have a story that you want to share, definitely reach out to us. We're more than willing to have you on our shows. Again, you got to go on the Facebook National Parents Union page in order to see those shows, what times they air, who's doing what, and it's all, there's something for everyone there. I have a show on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Maritza has her shows. Shay does a show. Judith. And so there's something for everyone. We have more delegates that have vital information that comes out during the day. All right, we are at our Power Up. And as you can see right here, this is our ultimate goal, right? Right now, you might think that the kids, our children have a right to a high quality education. A lot of constitutions say adequate, minimum, basic. We see the outcomes that come from that adequate, basic, or minimum. And so we are really pushing for a right, codified, what they already should have natural, but now codified, a right to a civil right to a high quality education. So that is our ultimate goal and pursuit. Responsibility, okay? This is your personal responsibility and what you can do in order to start practicing what we call deliberate engagement and mastering the things that you learn during this time. So using the strategies you've learned during this 3-week session, develop an education activism goal, right? What is going to be your goal? Like I just told you, our goal in pursuit is that our children will have a civil right to a high quality education. So we created that goal. And when you create a goal, you definitely need to have your tactics and strategies. We just showed you the toolkit full of strategies, full of tactics, right? And then you can talk about when you create that goal, the tactics and strategies you're going to use, right? And what you can deliver on. What are you going to be able to provide as a deliverable? It could be like Maritza said, you know, a document, op-ed, article, persuasive speech, community collaboration, whatever that may be, but set your goal, create your tactics and strategies, and then offer what you're going to deliver on as far as reaching that personal measurement of achievement and what you would like to see happen with education in your community. And so anytime that you are able to hone in on and target something specific, target that specific goal. It doesn't have to be something humongous. It can be, I want to make sure that I attend every single board meeting this year. Okay, it's not a resolution, it's a goal. What is your tactics and strategies? Do you want to go alone? Do you want to invite other people with you? Like, what is going to help you make sure that you're consistently reaching towards that goal? And what are you going to bring back from doing that, right? So if you are attending board meetings and by the third meeting, you decide, you know what, I'm going to start making public comment and I'm going to ask for a formal resolution for such and such thing to take place, right? I need the board to address this, or I'm going to start reaching out to my Senate Education Committee. That is my goal. I want to stay in continued conversation and communication towards whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. Well, what are you going to be able to deliver on? What tactics and strategies you're going to use is going to be very important to keep you targeted and focused, aiming for that towards that goal and that end. If you have any questions, you definitely can contact a delegate in your region. Here is information if you attended our boot camp sessions and you wanted to have answers with regards to what took place during the boot camp sessions or anything that we offered you during that time. Definitely reach out. As you can see again, I'm Christina Laster, the Director of Policy and Legislation. Maritza is in Pennsylvania, or Pennsylvania Region Delegate. Shay is in Texas, and Judith is in Arkansas. Definitely willing to help you out in that area. All right, and so announcements at this time.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. If you're interested in being a member of the National Parents Union, please to go on the National Parents Union website, www.nationalparentsunion.org. There you have our membership. It is free to join for yourself or for your organization. Also, this coming Thursday at 8 p.m. will be our next National Parents Union Family Clapback with very special invited guest, Dolores Huerta, amongst more of our National Parents Union family, Judith Yanes, the Vet Dukes. We're going to have Christy Joyce, Nehemiah Frank. It's going to be an amazing opportunity for those of you that are interested in being involved. If you have not registered yet, here is the link that will allow you to register. If you're interested in more information about the National Parents Union, as Christina had stated earlier, you can send us an email if you don't want to reach to us directly, but just needed some general information about us, info@nationalparentsunion.org. And for those of you that have attended, you will be getting a certificate of participation from us for being a part of this very informative session. Thank you.
Okay, and so are there any questions at this time? But before I start the Q&A, and I lost the portion of my notes, so I don't know if this was my part or Shay, if this was your part, but I'm just going to make this announcement about certificates. Completion of this 3-week boot camps comes with a certificate. Definitely want to get that to you. There are some people who weren't able to attend while this live session was taking place. Definitely reach out. If you didn't register through the webinar link, we may not have your information to get you that certificate of completion, and we want to provide that for you for successfully completing all 3 sessions. Again, this is one of the perks of membership as well. Definitely check the website out, and if there are no more statements by my wonderful co-hosts and teammates, then I will take questions and answers during this time. If not, you are excused. Thank you so much for joining us during this 3-week boot camp session. We hope you learned a lot. Here to help you, here to hear feedback, and we will see you soon.
Good night.
Bye-bye. Have a
Good
happy New
evening.
Year.
Stay safe, everybody.
Bye, everyone.